generally jurors who are sworn are bound to follow the court's instructions. And the court said, I'll sustain the objection. Tell us where they were should be disregarded. So I read it out. That's why I did that.
Do you, counsel, do you think that Lampley, where we said, quote, you may not have every question answered because the only person that can answer all of your questions is the defendant sitting there at the table, was permissible? Do we need to overrule Lampley for you to win on this point, or can you distinguish that? I mean, is Lampley right, I guess is one question, but can you distinguish from that comment?
Well, I don't think respectfully, I don't think Lampley's great writing from the court, respectfully. I mean, respectfully. But I don't think you need to overrule it.
It does happen.
Not often. But I don't think that it needs to be overruled, because in context, the prosecutor here was clearly going at the fact that appellant did not testify. The appellant did not put in this evidence. There is no way around it. The lawyer, the prosecutor, was so prepared on his objection the first time by saying, no, Your Honor, it's not objectionable because I prefaced it. I surrounded with, there's no burden of proof on the prosecution.
But Mr. Steele, there were objections here. So what is the ineffective assistance where you say, I mean, is there a piece of this that was not objected to that is the focus of this argument, or?
The only objection was burden shifting, and I thought this court taught that the objection should have been commenting on the silence. That's why I raised it. I don't believe that it is. There's an objection. You just have to be honest with everybody.
And so the ineffective assistance claim is not the lack of an objection, but an objection with the wrong explanation for it?
Your court teaches that you have to make a specific, proper objection. I believe, if I'm wrong, then that's me on habeas, but I believe that the objection should have been the comments on the right to remain silent.
Counsel, let me ask, if the court excluded, tell us where you were, outside of that statement, how is it wrong for the prosecution to say there's no evidence?
Not what the prosecutor said. The prosecutor said, I would still like to hear that answer. It is still going to the fact that the appellant did not make that claim.
But is that directly enough to
Time.
win your argument?
I hope so. I will find out.
Good answer.
Mr. Steele, that's a good way to conclude. Thank you for your argument. Appreciate you. Thank you. Vernon, good morning.
If it may please the court, my name is Alex Bernick, and I represent the state of Georgia on behalf of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. I'm going to go ahead and jump in right into enumeration 1 here. That's one we spent most time on.
So if, with your apologies, could we pick up where we left off there?
Of course.
And help me understand why this comment on silence, which is you would agree that it's a different point than burden shifting.
Right.
Why that's not a problem to say, I would like to hear this answer. Why? You're going to tell me in a minute on prejudice that you had overwhelming evidence of guilt. Then why does a prosecutor need to stand up in front of a jury and play games with constitutional rights?
Well, I think this goes back to the courts, as I cited back in my brief to Ridley. Ridley states that where the defense.
Other than Lampley, none of the cases you cited apply to something like this. Ridley and Thompson, and I think it was Johnson or Jackson. They're all cases either about the defense's failure to offer other evidence. For example, defense lawyer says, all these other witnesses who didn't testify would have exonerated me. State stands up and says, you didn't even subpoena them. State offers lots of circumstantial evidence. Defense lawyer doesn't rebut the circumstantial evidence or explain it. Defense lawyer or prosecutor stands up and says they didn't explain away that evidence. That's very different from the defendant didn't tell you something important. Evidence coming from the defendant as opposed to explained or argued by the defense lawyer is a very different thing when it comes to right to remain silent. And in our case law, the only case that I see that gets close to that is Lampley. And the statement there was really in context more of a throwaway than a principal point that was repeated through multiple sentences.
I'll disagree with you on that one. I think when you look at the closing argument in total, you'll see that this is a comment about the defense attorney's inability to explain away or present evidence on their behalf. And as in Ridley, the
In
failure
context,
about-
it's pretty clearly a comment on the defendant's failure to answer the question where he was.
Well, I think when we go back to the second closing, that's where we come back when the prosecutor begins the second closing. He explicitly references the attorney's argument there. He explicitly references, did you hear in the attorney's argument that there was any failure to explain? It wasn't about the choice to testify. It wasn't about whether the defendant testified here. It was clearly throughout it, it was with expressed to the defense attorney's argument and failure to rebut the evidence, which is in Georgia law has been accepted that you can do. And
I know I sidetracked you on the enumeration too. If you
Go
want,
ahead. No,
you
no,
want
go
to do the
ahead.
Fifth Amendment thing, that's fine.
if you want, do you need me to address prejudice here?
We may come back to it. I mean, prejudice is going to be the same for all of the first three enumerations unless we get to cumulative. So if you want to talk about your evidence, you certainly can, but I think we're familiar with what the jury heard. Yeah.
I'll go back. I'll just go ahead and go to enumeration 1 then, with the text messages. Excuse me, I got the wrong one. Fifth Amendment. This is clearly trial strategy here. It's clear trial strategy.
You seem so
It's
nervous.
apparent trial strategy. You see it in opening. The defense attorney asks why the two women were not at the table, and that the defendants were scapegoats. They were hiding something. Closing argument. The attorney comes back around and says, Mariah Smith and Hartfield are the ones who set this in motion. Why are they not here? And then we come back to the motion of trial where she testifies and she says, part of my strategy is to put the blame on them, ask why they were not there, and argue that the privilege is being used as a shield for him or
But how does that map on to the jury instruction? Because the jury instruction then seems to undermine that to some extent.
I don't think it does. I think the jury instruction complements trial strategy here. It allows them to build in this inference that, and while inferences are not allowed, it does allow her to build and argue that.
So it was good because it allowed something that's not allowed?
It can be.
Inferences of her guilt are allowed.
Inferences of her guilt are allowed.
Yeah.
Right.
But can you explain how that addition to the jury instruction is supposed to be understood by the jury consistent with the Constitution?
On its face, it's more likely that it's not consistent with the Constitution, but we're here in an ineffective assistance realm, and so with trial
Are you
strategy,
conceding there was deficiency?
I'm not conceding because
Okay.
I
I mean,
think
because I think if I get what your point is. It's not, the question is not simply, was this jury instruction right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, if what you're saying is, no, actually, that would be really hard for a jury to understand consistent with the Constitution, then I think
but erroneous jury instructions are not necessarily per se deficient performance.
they're not necessarily, but it can make it. I mean, it really then points us to prejudice.
Right.
So what is your best formulation of that argument, that there is none?
There is none. I think we go back to Horn on this case, and Horn is very similar, and that was a direct review case. Horn asked whether there was any evidence of material facts that were added from the leading questions. It's very similar to a cumulative evidence in a prejudice in an ineffective assistance of counsel. And here I would say there was no material facts that were added, either as to appellant's guilt. If you were going to add any facts, any obvious inferences that were made, it was that she was a co-conspirator, and that's obvious from the evidence that was already introduced and independently introduced of this. Also, we do have strong evidence that was noted by the trial court, who was in the position to make that finding. They're the ones who saw the trial develop. They were ones who also were able to address credibility and weigh that evidence just as a juror would.
But counsel, how can you say that there was no inference that the appellant was guilty when she took the fifth on questions like, were you with him on that day? Do you know him? I mean, all those kinds of things where, I mean, wouldn't the inference, if the jury believes she was taking the fifth to hide something, she was hiding the fact that she knew him and that he was there at the scene on that day. So why is that why would that not be an inference of guilt against Blalock?
Well, I think we come back also to her cross-examination testimony that she gave there. She denied setting them up. She denied directing Blalock or Ryan to shoot them. And so between the inference that could be created, as you suggested, and
Well, trial counsel argued she was protecting the real killers.
Right.
Obviously, it wasn't Blalock, somebody else.
someone else. And honestly, she also took the fifth to saying that she had a gun that day, or she shot him. So you could also build that.
But is that a reasonable inference to draw? I mean, when the question is, were you with this defendant during the murder? And the answer is, I'm going to assert my Fifth Amendment right to avoid self-incrimination. No, I was not with him is not incriminating to her. The only answer that's possibly incriminating is yes, which then ties him. I mean, isn't that sort of by a wide margin the most reasonable inference to draw from that invocation?
I don't think so necessarily. I think it creates the gray area that she wanted to bring up. She wanted to hide the real killers. It's a gray area that she wanted to operate in, is to create this reasonable doubt, create that there's someone else out there that was in there. And I think she wanted to create that, and that ties into the trial strategy.
How does not answering the question of were you with this defendant during the murder doing that?
Well, it was, I think the question was, were you with the defendant that day, not necessarily during the murder? And so that day is broader than the murder, than the time
What
of
else
murder.
could she, what else could be incriminating that happened that she wouldn't be able to answer about? Do you see what, like, it seems like if she's invoking,
Mhm.
then there's something she's worried about that's incriminating to her, which then leads to the inference that the presiding justice was suggesting.
Or could it be the inference of other prosecution activities that they had earlier in the day?
It could be a prosecution, other prosecution, the marijuana deal, the drug deal that she set up. Could be that.
Are those not part and parcel of what ultimately culminated in the murder?
They were, but not necessarily part of what was charged with the appellant.
But-
here.
But I mean, if that's all they'd been involved with and then there was a murder, you would have charged that as party to the crime and we'd be here arguing about that. So, I mean, I don't see how that's really how that's potentially bringing in third parties through this inference. And the other problem is if this was Jackson's sufficiency, we would say, well, it was a conceivable inference that could have been drawn and we allow juries to do that. But this isn't Jackson's sufficiency. This is Strickland prejudice. And we look to what inferences are reasonable and likely.
Well, Lawrence also says that it's obvious inferences there. And so I don't know if it's necessarily obvious that that Blalock was with her during the time of the shooting. It could be reasonable to infer, but not necessarily obvious.
Seems like it's a pretty reasonable, I mean, unreasonable stretch to draw that inference. I don't disagree with the question from the presiding justice. My question is though, did counsel argue at closing the third party inference that the jury was supposed to draw from the invocation?
No, she did not. And she just argued with respect to Hartfield was that, Mariah Smith and Hartfield clearly set this in motion. She focused more on Smith's testimony and the locations of bullets and ballistics.
Which makes the inference you rely on even more difficult.
I think
It's not reasonable. If it's reasonable trial strategy, you would have presumed that the lawyer would have argued it in closing.
she would have, but she also, it ties into this argument here, this sentence here.
I mean, do we assess deficiency and prejudice in slices like that? Or do we look at it in the context of the whole case? The question is not, could any reasonable lawyer have done this one discrete thing in the abstract? The question is, could any reasonable lawyer, and it is an objective standard, have done this thing in this particular context of the whole case, right?
Right.
Okay.
I think it's to the whole case. And we also see that this argument doesn't apply just to that they were lying or hiding. It doesn't apply just to Hartfield herself, it also applies to Mariah Smith. And so I think if you had it just applied to Hartfield herself, you'd have a bigger issue. But because it's Mariah Smith, you showed this trial strategy has been crafted about the whole case itself.
So I apologize, excuse me, if I missed this, but I'm not sure I've heard a prejudice argument from you that talks about, that assesses the strength of the evidence overall.
Okay.
Could you provide that argument?
Yes, Mariah Smith was eyewitness here. She identified appellant shooting and shooting into the vehicle. I think the most corroborating circumstantial evidence is that we have those text messages that were sent, I guess Instagram messages were sent shortly after Mariah Smith and Hartfield had been picked up by law enforcement, interviewed by them.
Were those Instagram messages admitted? I thought there were some problems.
They were admitted. And actually, they were raised on motion to trial, and they were not raised here in the Supreme Court. But they were admitted over objection. And those Instagram messages talk about why else would Blalock be interested in someone being picked up and snitching on him in a closely related time, and also knowing that she was a rat. So it's implied guilt there, implied.
I mean, that, so sort of by your own phrasing, you're admitting these are circumstantial pieces of evidence. Sometimes it's hard to get to overwhelming evidence by just circumstantial evidence. Is there anything else?
But you can. There's also the text messages that place Hartfield and Blalock and Ryan at the scene close in time. We know that both Mitchell and Hartfield were texting between the two. And Mitchell and Uten's story, even though they didn't identify Blalock, they largely corroborate her narrative of what occurred that night also.
And their description of the shooter is reasonably consistent with the physical appearance, although they couldn't identify anybody, right? So let me ask this. So basically you've got evidence that the four were together, the two men and the two women. They split up and the two women joined the three victims, for lack of, I mean, the three folks that were in the car when the shooting started. And then they moved to a new location. The women got out of the car in what appears to be a coordinated fashion, if we're taking the evidence in your way, and then shooting broke out. Right. And then after the shooting, there's this flurry of messages between the women and some of the victims and the women and the appellant, right?
Right.
And so when the appellant responds, I knew this person was a rat, is the only inference of that I was guilty, or could it be I was double crossed? There was somebody else and I've been set up.
Well, I think the inference is that he was guilty is because Hartfield sent that to both Blalock and Ryan. He didn't send it to anyone else. It was to them two specifically.
And did he ask afterwards, what did she say?
Yes, she did ask, what did she say?
So that didn't make
The
sense.
interest here is that we're still, and as I would put it, we're still in the concealment phase of the conspiracy here. And that she's asking about what happened. And this is closely short in time. There's no other evidence in the record of any other activities that could have incriminated him or them that happened after the shooting. And so the obvious inference here is that this related to Blalock's admission of guilt to his co-conspirator. If there's no other questions, I'll address the third enumeration.
Sure.
Of the text messages. Here we have the trial court found that there's deficient performance in failing to find the text messages. There are two text messages that were sent by Bernard Mitchell to a person with the Instagram handle PFK Don, and largely they both say we shot back.
There it is, right there.
And while there was deficient performance in failing to find, the trial court found that there was no prejudice for them. There was no evidence that they would necessarily use them, and also importantly, that they were cumulative other evidence that had already been, in my words, debunked by Detective Hogan. Now I'll just go ahead and go to the cumulative here. Is that Mariah Smith had already she told law enforcement during her interview, and that came out with Detective Hogan's testimony that she had told them that Mitchell had shot back. And when that was presented, Detective Hogan said this did not make sense with the physical evidence at the scene.
Yes.
In order for it to shoot back, they were talking about the 9mm shell casings that were found at building, I believe, X, and the two that were found on top of the car. And when he testified, he said 9mm shoot, and when they eject, shell casings, they eject up and to the right. So for someone to shoot back at someone at that angle, the shell casings would have landed away from the vehicle. They would have not landed on top.
It is true that not all handguns eject. I mean, revolvers don't. right? I mean,
Right.
so the fact that you didn't find casings from a third gun doesn't mean there wasn't a third gun, right?
Doesn't necessarily mean, and Mitchell and Uden both said they had guns, and Mitchell in particular said there's a 22. There's just no evidence of a 22 being fired there. And for the shell casings that were found, it was that Detective Hogan testified that a 22 does not shoot 9mm or 7.62 caliber bullets that were found at the scene.
Counsel, can you now address cumulative prejudice? Because I mean, I've heard you talk about 3 enumerations, and it seems like there may be deficiency with all of that, and you've gone to prejudice. So you've got prejudice from taking the fifth. You've got prejudice from commenting on silence. You've got prejudice apparently from admitting these text messages. How is that not cumulative enough to warrant a new trial?
I don't think these are cumulative enough because I don't think they actually impact the evidence that was given that supported the defendant's guilt here. None of them take out.
That's a tough argument.
It is a tough argument, but I don't believe that they pull out any of the pieces that would support the defendant's guilt. It's not that you're removing, let's say, the Instagram messages that were circumstantial.
But all the evidence that you offered us to support the strength of the conviction was also circumstantial. So we're pulling out, circumstantial building blocks in a circumstantial pyramid.
But they're not necessarily being pulled out here. The as we talked about, the text messages, they are largely debunked anyway. The jury had already heard it's cumulative, so you're not pulling out any evidence there. The failure to testify, there's no evidence that what he would have testified. There's nothing that's being debunked there.
But the prejudice is the fact that you alluded that he should have testified, and he would have not been able to provide any evidence other than he was at the scene of the crime. I mean that's the prejudice there.
But there's enough.
Is it possible that that prejudice is also compounded in this context by the Fifth Amendment issue, because the jury has heard instructions, not with respect to his not testifying, but about inferences they can draw about somebody who doesn't testify?
No, I don't think that's necessarily done. I think here is with the inferences that were made, they were with reasonable trial strategy, and that they supported the trial counsel's strategy here, that there was another person there. And so I don't think it benefits him at all. And I don't think it attacks that to any extent. If there are no further questions, I just ask you to confirm these convictions and sit down. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Thank you, counsel, for both sides for the fine argument. We'll try to have your decision as soon as possible. Thank you.
This is it, y'all. This is it. It's over with. Let me go ahead on and tell you guys exactly what's going on. Okay, y'all, listen. I've been following this.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the next case?
Yes, Your Honor. S 25A0023, Aaron Lewis versus the state. David Clark for appellant, Clifford Kurlander for appellant.
Okay, I don't care about this. I'm gonna just mute it because I don't know nothing about this case here that they're about to talk about. So I just want to keep it on here just in case they decide to make a decision right away. So I want to, while this guy's arguing, y'all. But let me tell you guys what happened. I've been following this appeal since it started, okay? In fact, I was telling the news people the first time they submitted it, he got rejected. And folks, they weren't paying attention to me. And I was telling them, they're like, no. I said, yes, it is. And, because I've been speaking with the family. The family's been keeping me abreast of everything that's happening with Lil Rod's case that happened a few years ago. So just about right before he took the plea, I spoke with the family, and they had told me that it was set for November and everything. So I've been just keeping up, trying to bring you guys. If anybody is watching, anybody's showing, it came from me. I'm the one who's been keeping these people abreast of what's been happening, because the family has been keeping me abreast of what's happening. Okay. So, I was told that they were given 3 choices. Three choices. Three choices. One choice was they're going to do a new trial. Second choice was that time served, and they don't want time served because he does not want. They do not want to be put down as a convicted felon. And then the other choice was just to throw the case out. Did I give you a go? New trial, time served, or just throw the case out. They really want the last part, throw the case out. Okay. Will they make a decision today? Hopefully they will. They will. Hopefully, we don't know how far back up they are, but still it's sitting there, so they might make the decision today. They might make the decision today. So we're just hoping that it happened. But and also I got the approval from the Supreme Court to be able to stream this for you today. I got my email from them giving me approval. So I'm not in violation of anything, because folks will be like, oh, she violating this. Da, 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 da. No, I emailed them, got my approval. So what you're watching here is legit. Okay, legit from the Supreme Court. I got it from the PIO person that approves the because I was going to go down there and meet with Mr. Steele and talk to them down there, but because I waited too late, they said that I had to they couldn't give me the approval to come down there and record it. So what they did is give me approval to be able to stream it here. That's the reason why I'm streaming it for you guys, because I got the approval from the court. At first I was just giving you guys the link to go watch it, but because I got the approval, I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and play it on my channel for you guys. Okay. All right. So, but do me a favor. Let me call his girlfriend and let's talk and see what she says about what's happened. Because his dad, the girlfriend, and all of them been keeping up with me and let me know what's happening with his case. So when everyone was not paying attention, I was getting the 411 from the family and stuff like that. Hold on. We just hope that they don't just do a new trial, that they just throw it away. Let's just hope and pray that. Hold on a second. Let me just call the girlfriend. I think she said she was going to be down at the court. It's for both. She told me it's for both, Princess Walker. She's probably still at the court. She probably can't answer the phone. Yeah, she's at the court. Let me call his dad to see if his dad is still hold on a second, y'all. Let me mute for a second. I'll be right back. Yeah, I think all of them are at the court at the it's being done at the University of Georgia law I guess it's the law library looking place. That's where it's at. It's not too far from here. I can take I can drive over there. Who is Lewis? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, Georgia State University. That's where it's at. Thank you, Monet. Okay. All right. So we can y'all want to hear what happening back here? Hold on. Let me put this so y'all can hear what I'm listening to back here. Hold on.
While no arrests have been made, while no charges have been filed, their chief suspects are YFN members or if gang members, I don't know how they're gonna verbalize.
This is me inside the room here, looking at the, y'all see it? Y'all see what's happening? Hold on.
And then also, I can't get a copy of their rough
Look.
reports to even check behind that, and check behind the work. I think inappropriate in the handcuffs. So any on that for the rough drafts reports. Now, basically, she did tell me that she's not planning on going into.
Why it's still there? Still is the appellate attorney that took care of that case.
They mitigate some of my with the rough drafts reports. However.
Yes, Jeff, brother, we're still keeping an eye on that. We're still keeping an eye on Jeffrey's brother, Monet. We're gonna keep our eyes on that as well. Sylvia, while we are waiting, possible put Sylvia Amazon. Yes, put my, thank you. She said, put my wish list up, y'all. I mean, B Satin has been blessing me on my list, y'all. She's been blessing me and blessing so many of you guys. Been so wonderful.
For the defense attorneys to be able to review before examining.
Y'all hear this? I know y'all all wondering. Oh, I gotta tell y'all something. Oh, we got to do a live later on. I gotta tell y'all something. Wait till I got something to tell y'all. I got something to tell y'all. It's gonna be members only later on. I got something to tell y'all. Members only later on.
Any further information regarding the suspects.
I gotta tell y'all something later on. Oh, y'all. Okay, y'all want me to tell y'all now? Y'all want me to tell y'all now? Y'all want me to tell y'all now? You guys are so freaking nosy. Let me tell y'all what y'all did, right? Y'all nosies. One of y'all took a Zoom of Mr. Abadi's computer and y'all zoomed it in. Y'all zoomed it in. Y'all zoomed it in. And all I'm going to say is that's my hint on that, what it is. That's my hint. That's my hint. Okay. And guess what? I am not the one with the camera. Y'all can't get me in trouble. Y'all cannot get me in trouble. But anyway.
About this incident was new to me because I thought
Right, old new as this weekend, we got the new witnesses.
So I have not spoken to him about it, but and quite frankly,
Something smells good over here.
I don't think it's unreasonable to see if we can get the.
Y'all hear the judge?
Reports, even if they're draft reports,
Y'all hear the judge, right?
Testifying about what's in those reports, and we can do it with an instruction that it can be.
360, please. Sylvia, 360, please. What's 360?
Just used for the purposes of this.
Will a decision be made today? I don't know. They might. He said they're gonna get a decision as soon as possible. Oh man, Arlie, Haley, you guys, y'all got me trying to answer questions that I don't want to answer right now. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna answer some question. Somebody said, if you stop talking, oh, you're being very rude, Lavana. You know what? There's other channels that's playing it that you can go watch. You know that, right? So I'm not the person to come after now.
If you're gonna
Okay,
have
you know there's a different channel that you can go and watch it, or you can go in another spot and watch it. Right now, we're not. This is not the channel for that. Okay?
What? Okay, so I mean, y'all want to come back.
The nerve to say to me, if you be quiet, you'll hear it. I know you ain't talking to me. I know you're not talking to me.
Actually.
Y'all better tell her.
Do this with any break for lunch. Can y'all just call it different?
360 is a deal. What's a three? I don't know what 360 is.
All right, let's get the jury out. All
Oh, show the room? Y'all want to see the room? Y'all want a 360 to show the room? Okay, I can show the room. That's what y'all want to see? That's what you want to see, the room? Okay. Okay, I just showed you the room. You're welcome. Just saying I'm being rude. You said why the rudeness is not needed. You say okay, let me get figured out. Happy Annie, are you saying I'm being rude, or are you saying somebody in the chat being rude? I want to clarify who you're saying about being rude. Oh, not me. Okay. Thank you. You know what, y'all? When I be reading this stuff, I be getting it wrong. That's why Randa be always like, Sylvia, they didn't say it that way. So I have to, check myself sometimes. I was trying to, you almost had me like on 10. Oh, the person in the chat being rude. Thank you, Tramel. Y'all want to hear the judge? I mean, you want to hear this? I want to talk to you guys. I like talking to you. His appeal is over with. I mean, the appeal part is over with. Oh, Jamel, thank you, darling. Thank you. Thank you. I like good messages like that. I get beat up on more than I tend to like, but I like these messages. But guys, I'm gonna end X. If you decide you want to come over here, you can. But I'm gonna end X and stay with my YouTubers, okay? X, I'll see you guys later. Bye, X. Okay, now. Oh, I had 1,000 people watching me on X. Wow, that was great.
So basically, the city has cameras around the city. Some of them they record all the time.
Yeah, I got so much stuff inside of me right now. I wish I can share. I wish I can share. I got so much inside of me right now. I got so much inside of me. I just wish I could share with you guys, but I can't. I can't. The two channels are showing this feed for me. I believe trolls have the same entitlement. Oh my God. I wish I had some real. Hey, darling. Hey, honey. Y'all, are y'all still subscribing to her channel? Did y'all get her over 1,000 subscribers yet? This is my girl in the know with LJ Hall, y'all. She is the one that, that you guys try to chew me out and say that I called her out. And when the judge called on who showed the picture and all that. So I got to make it up to her because you guys try to throw me and say I did it to her, but I didn't. So make sure y'all subscribe to her channel. There's a 1,124, you guys. That's her channel right there, in the know with Miss LJ Hall. Make sure y'all subscribe to her channel. You need my number? Okay, here's my number. Everybody else been calling me on my number. Just make sure you text me and tell me who you are on YouTube YouTube, because I won't respond to you because I've been getting weirdos. So tell me who you are and then I'll respond to you. But this is my number right here. I got my number. Can I put the appeal back on? No, I can't put the appeal back on because I'm not interested in this next person. I'm not interested in that person. You want me to mute back here? Let me mute. Let me mute this one here. Hold on.
They're just all manned by the same system that we can access. GDOT has their main hub, we have ours.
Okay. I muted the TV down. Okay. You coming tomorrow? Okay. Okay. Miss Happy Ann says, can't wait to hear it later. Hope you get to see on the rewatch. I'm off to work in 10 minutes. Oh, have a good day, okay? Vic Park says, Sylvia, you cheating? Cheating on who? Who am I cheating on? Who am I cheating on? Hey, Grady Place. Who am I cheating on?
Right, and so it's a way of the defendant in that hypothetical case reaching into the second county.
Who am I cheating on? You giving your number? You know what? You funny.
But when the volitional act reaches into another county, you would at least say that that's a closer case that it could be venue in the other county.
So if my volitional act in a particular case is to call someone in another county and instruct them to take an action, it seems to me that I am taking a volitional act that has sort of parts in two different counties at that point, as opposed to everything I am doing is in this county. What I understand your case, we don't have to argue about the edge case that presents.
Okay. All right, y'all. Let me finish. Yeah, it's so cold in here now. That's why I got my scarf and my coat. My coat's over there. It's so cold in here. It's cold. My nose is cold. I feel like I'm Rudolph or something. My nose gonna turn red in a minute. Sophie, what do you think about this morning so far with YSL case? It's a hot. I'm still saying the same word. It's a hot mess. This case is a hot mess. That's all I keep saying. Hot mess. The fact that they are stealing needs and investing. You know, Big Ray? Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes, investigation. Miss Sylvia, you know who my boo is. Who's your boo? Who's your boo? Monet. Be slat and wish you were young. Oh. Okay, now all y'all tried to text me. Hey, Parks. Look, where's he at? Where's he at? V Park. Vic, listen. Do you know you and I have the same last name? My last name before my second marriage was Parks. If you and I got married, I don't even have to change my name. I could keep the same name that I have now. That's a joke. It's a joke. Just joking. You saw Kokomo with me this morning? Yeah, he's here. Love T. I was just trying to tell him I wouldn't have to change my name. Y'all see my name. It says Parks. Dallas's last name is Parks. You, Tata, you gonna ask me why is Fulton County so corrupt? How I know? Why would I know that question? She said, "You ain't gotta tell me twice, baby." You know, I'm just joking, right?
When committed is a word that refers to the actions of a present defendant. No, where it's committed.
Okay, y'all. I love when you make me smile. Okay, I gotta go, y'all. I gotta take my butt on into the cafeteria so I can go find some food to eat before the rush crowd come down. So I'm gonna go get off this live. Is Adam married? Yes, he's married, y'all. Adam is married. He's married. He's married, y'all. Adam is married. His wife is a beautiful person. He's married. He's a married man. Y'all ladies gotta calm down. Okay, y'all. I gotta so y'all wanna watch it while you don't wanna watch the rest of this thing here? Go, let me put them up. Hold on a second. I'm gonna put it next to us.
Can see specifically that the distribution
It
was.
says sale and, I'm looking at
Yes, Your Honor.
count one, the sale and distribution by selling.
But there's no allegation that the distribution was to these people in Gwinnett. I mean, the indictment's pretty clear that it's the sale to them in the cab.
The indictment certainly does, and I agree that there is a sale in the cab. The reason why I bring up the distribution is because when we look at the general demurrer, we ask, can
Good.
admit
Hold on,
all
gotta
of
mute,
these
gotta
things
mute,
in
gotta mute.
there and still be innocent, or in this situation?
You accuse me of distribution in DeKalb County.
Yes,
I say yes, absolutely. For purposes of this demur, I distributed in DeKalb County. That does not establish venue in Gwinnett.
it does, Your Honor, to the if, and the venue statute sets out the relevant factors that fact finder can consider. If the jury can find a causal connection while in the commission of the predicate felony that extends into the death.
So while in the commission of the predicate felony, I think part of the problem here is a lot of the complexity in this particular case that is absent from a lot of our other felony murder cases is the attenuation between the predicate act and the death that is just the natural consequence of your theory of felony murder by bringing this case the way that you did. But there are lots of predicate felonies that take time and occur in a variety of places. This predicate felony happened, it was a discrete act as alleged in DeKalb County. The crime was not complete until the victim had overdosed and died in Gwinnett. But the completion of the crime is not the same thing as the commission of the crime.
Is that true, though? Was it completed in Gwinnett if the sale, which is the felony, the sale occurred in DeKalb? So after the sale, is that the completed act?
The predicate felony was over and done.
Yes.
In DeKalb.
But you don't have a complete murder until a victim is dead, which happened in Gwinnett.
Correct, Your Honor.
Which then raises the issue of foreseeability again. This idea of the attenuation between commission and completion.
And yes, Your Honor, and those might be very difficult and questions to answer at a trial. I joined with my opposing colleague in noting that at the general demurrer stage, we're not entering these facts into the analysis here.
And so do you agree with your colleague on the other side that foreseeability is not really relevant to the venue question?
I would agree with that, Your Honor, because using facts to decide the general demurrer, it just doesn't, that's not how we decide a general demurrer. We're going to decide a general demurrer based on whether essentially it is legally impossible.
So
for a
let me,
defendant.
you mentioned we're doing hypotheticals, and I get what I think I follow what you're saying about they're admitting everything that's in the indictment, but let's take it this way. I'm the owner of a known dangerous dog. Like, I mean, it's bitten everybody it's ever been around. And I live in Whitfield County, my home, and I sell it to you. And you take it home. I don't know if you live in Gwinnett. I'm going to say you live in Gwinnett. You live in Gwinnett, you take the dog home, and it bites someone in Gwinnett.
Okay.
Can you bring the theory that says, I sold a knowingly dangerous dog in Whitfield that caused an injury in Gwinnett, and let's say it's a felony to sell a knowingly, like a dog that's really dangerous. Is that a felony murder if the dog killed somebody in Gwinnett for me, that I'm susceptible to be charged in Gwinnett?
I think that the state would have a lot of trouble proving reasonable foreseeability under those.
Well, but under, you just said put foreseeability aside.
You've
for
alleged,
venue
and in the
purposes.
indictment, you've alleged it's a very dangerous dog.
I would say that, again, that's a very difficult factual situation, but if the defendant or appellant here is conceding that they caused the death while in the commission of the predicate felony, it does put us in different territory.
So again, with that, I asked the same question of your opposing counsel without making light of the seriousness of what's happened here. Why does it matter to your DA's office whether this is tried in this DA's office or another DA's office? Like, it can be tried conceivably in one of two counties.
I would agree that either county could have venue.
So your position is that under these facts, it could be in either one?
My position is that under what's alleged in the indictment, because of, as part of the general demurrer, what's conceded at trial.
What's conceded in the general demurrer is all the relevant facts that are alleged, not the legal conclusions. That because you're saying because we have alleged that they caused the death during the predicate felony, but that's not actually what you've alleged. Because you've alleged that they sold it in DeKalb County and that the heroin caused the death in Gwinnett, but you've alleged a completed predicate felony without anybody dead. You're not alleging that the sale caused the death. I understand that that's sort of how you're, but you're saying the heroin caused the death and that the sale, led to the death, right? You would not say that the predicate felony here is the sale of the heroin, yes, laced with fentanyl. You have alleged facts that show that was over and done in DeKalb County, right?
As indicted, it appears to have been.
Well,
done.
and I mean, part of the challenge here is we're using cause in two different ways. There's cause that's proximate cause for purposes of felony murder, and there's cause as in cause of death for purposes of the venue statute, and those are not the same cause.
My question is, you're saying that because you have alleged in the indictment that, and therefore he's deemed to have admitted everything that's in the indictment, that he caused the death during the commission of the predicate felony, that he's admitted that he caused the death during the predicate felony. What I'm suggesting to you is, I don't know that's how general demurrers work. because the predicate felony that you have alleged is the sale of the heroin.
Yes, sir.
And you haven't alleged that anyone died during that predicate felony.
Correct, Your Honor.
So if he's agreeing for purposes of a general demurrer, if that's the way we're construing it, right? That yes, I agree that, that I did all the things you said I did, but it's a sort of this legal conclusion that was the felony that caused the death. He's not admitting that, right?
I would disagree because what is being admitted is all the
Then
allegations.
then a crafty prosecutor could avoid every general demurrer by this ploy, right? But to say, well, I have alleged that you did it and you are admitting it.
Well, I think the distinction would be very similar to how this court's recent case in Powell, where what you'd be looking for is there something in the indictment that completely negates the element and thereby makes it.
So I don't know that it's as much negating the element as it is that you've sort of done two things simultaneously that are incompatible with each other. You've said the predicate felony occurred in DeKalb, the sale of the drugs, but you've also alleged that the cause of death was inflicted in Gwinnett County, which for purposes of the venue statute, just taking it on its face, would say venue rests in Gwinnett. The problem with that is the crime was committed in DeKalb.
Your Honor, and my response to that is based on this court's case law in cases like Lee and Bradley, and to some extent in Jones, which was analyzed under malice murder, where you can have a completed predicate felony in one county, and then you have the resulting death from that because it was caused while in the commission of that.
I think at least Jones is different, though. I mean, that's the sort of targeting or conduct that reaches into another county kind of case, which is not what's alleged in the indictment here.
So
are you reading 1722C as the cause of death being inflicted wherever it was ingested, but then caused by the sale? In other words, we don't know where it was ingested. Arguing we don't know any facts. Okay, let's put that aside for a minute. Based on what we think we know here, is your argument that defendant sold the drugs, which ultimately caused the death, but we don't really know where it was inflicted because the death couldn't be caused until the drugs were taken?
I just want to make sure I follow this. Our
I'm
theory.
looking at the language says, if it cannot be determined in which county the cause of death was inflicted,
Yes,
then it shall be considered as inflicted in the county where it occurred. So we don't know whether the drugs were taken, and assuming he sold them, assuming they took them, assuming that's why he died. We don't know where the drugs were taken, correct?
That is correct.
But if that's so, I mean, you only get, Justice LaGrue is right, but you only get to that part of 1722C if you can't determine what was inflicted. And if it is inflicted somewhere and you can determine it, that's where venue is. And you have only alleged one act by the defendant, one set of acts. And if that's the only one, then you can determine where it's inflicted.
Or are you saying that the sale itself doesn't cease at the sale? The sale somehow continues until the product is consumed? Is that, I'm trying to figure out how you get to venue being in Gwinnett.
And that would be one factual theory that could supply that. And if I could.
So like the sale would be like, the sale is completed when you are harmed. Is that how that would go down?
In this case, it would be that sale and then distribution into
But
Gwinnett.
the indictment says the sale was in DeKalb. So, I mean, you say that's a factual theory that, I mean, that we're looking at the allegations of the indictment, which say the sale was in DeKalb. That seems like a stretch to push it into Gwinnett.
If I have something that can answer everyone's
Okay.
So the venue statute is going to tell the jury what relevant facts there are in determining venue. And what I'm basing.
What do you mean by that?
Basically, in terms of it looks at where the infliction was. If it can't figure
We're
that
talking
out.
about 1722.
Yes, Your Honor, 1722. Can't figure that out. We ask where the body is.
But not figuring it out doesn't mean it's difficult to figure it out.
This is true. But we also don't need to allege a specific venue subsection in the indictment, as long as there is evidence supporting that determination by the jury, as long as it finds that causal connection.
But if you're wrong, then you can't bring the case at all. if you've picked the wrong venue.
Well, except there would be venue based on, I hate to go back to this, but the fact that it alleged, and it's not being disputed, that he did cause it in the commission.
So what was the answer that you had that would answer everyone's question?
Well, I didn't say I went to answer the follow-up questions. But in any event, Your Honor, this court has held before in those other cases, especially Lee and Bradley. And Lee and Bradley are actually great illustrations of how the predicate acts could be completed in different county, but also where the predicate acts may have no venue in the prosecuting county, as was found in Lee and Bradley. And yet the felony murder continues. Because felony murder continues, where is it?
But that's, I mean, there are tons of cases, not tons, there are a handful of cases where an act starts in one county and the victim stumbles over the county line, or someone has a bumper sticker on the back of their car that says, take me to Grady, and you go to Grady and you die in Fulton, but you got shot, strangled, stabbed somewhere else. None of that answers the question here, because we know where something was inflicted there, and we have to answer here where it's inflicted, not where the cause of death is.
Yes, Your Honor, but
And you're conflating conflicted with cause of death.
except the jury could find that the cause of death was inflicted depends on what the evidence is, if the accused here did distribute into Gwinnett, and also if the sale
Is there an
resulted-
allegation in the indictment that would support the allowance of such an inference?
Your Honor, there is the distribution.
What do you
and
mean by distributed into Gwinnett with respect to the particular victim here?
Well, if I may go a bit into the facts, which I said I wasn't going to do, there actually is, for a look at the motion hearing transcript, I believe page 116, there is evidence in an affidavit that one of the victims brought the appellant's drugs into Gwinnett County to provide a sample to the
So
other.
should you have indicted something differently? I mean, if we can't look at that.
Well, the question that I would have is, can the appellant admit that they distributed heroin and then while in the commission?
In DeKalb County.
You don't allege distribution in Gwinnett. You say sale and distribution in violation of 161330 by selling in DeKalb.
Yes, Your Honor.
So behind all of this, and we've spent a lot of time hashing through the text of the statute, but behind all of this is the constitutional venue provision that says venue shall be in the county where the crime was committed. And committed, in my view, is a word that inevitably has to refer to the acts of the defendant. In Lee, for example, kidnapping was the predicate felony for felony murder. And the kidnapping happened in one county, but the kidnapped victim was then transported by the kidnapper into the county where the murder occurred. And so there's still action by the defendant in the county where the murder, there was action in both counties by the defendant. I'm not sure that maps on well to a case like here where there's action by the defendant in only one county.
As a legal matter, Your Honor, I would say it does. It's a factual matter that may be very difficult for us to prove the similarity. And the reason why the legal matter would map onto this case is because we still have that causal connection where the defendant, even if the predicate act is previously completed, is causing the death while in the commission. And
so if I shoot somebody in Cobb County and they get taken to Grady and they die in Grady, I can be charged with murder in Fulton as well as in Cobb?
I would say that would be very unlikely to support that kind, even.
That's what you're doing here.
Except what I'm saying is that there must be an event that inflicted the cause of death that was caused by the defendant's conduct while in the commission of the predicate felony. And that's really the.
But I don't see how your theory does not preclude bringing venue in any one of our 159 counties based on where someone just chooses to go after they buy drugs. Do you dispute that?
This is it's hard to answer. I guess I would say maybe, but here's the problem, in the limited amount of time I have left, is that it's difficult to answer factual hypotheticals, including this one, because of the fact that this was brought on a general demur, and these questions really deserve a full trial record.
And you have to prove venue beyond a reasonable doubt at trial based on the facts.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any further questions? All right, thank you, Councilman. So thank you both for the final argument. We'll try to have you a decision as soon as possible. A couple of comments before we leave the bench. First, I'd like to make just a few words of thank you. First, would members of the planning committee, before we adjourn, as well as our judicial circuit judges and court officers, please stay for a few ceremonial photographs with the court. We're going to take those photographs here on the stage when we come back. Students that are participating in the question and answer session may stay. We'd ask you to move up closer, if you don't mind, to the stage. Everyone else may enjoy the rest of your day. For the benefit of the students that are here, and while the lawyers are still here, I want to commend them in your presence and tell you all how fortunate you were to hear good lawyering, effective lawyering, very professional lawyering from all of the lawyers that appeared today. What you saw today was very pretty typical of what we see at our court, which is a very fine representation by the bar of good lawyering. They exercise some really good characteristics that I think appellate lawyers would probably do well to emulate. They reference the record pretty regularly. They cited Georgia law. They cited cases and statutes. They were very patient. You'll see that with these lawyers. We see it regularly with these lawyers. Very patient in handling a variety of questions, sometimes duplicative and repetitive questioning in a very professional way. I always appreciate that. I know that my colleagues do as well. So you saw some good lawyering today. I thank the lawyers for their presentations of the case. With that, we're going to stand in recess until tomorrow's session, another session of oral arguments at the Nathan Deal Judicial Center. I also would lastly remind you lawyers that are in the room that we live stream our oral arguments and we record our oral arguments. And if you want to see more good lawyering, you're welcome to continually watch our live stream of oral arguments and even see some of the recorded arguments to get some tips on effective lawyering. With that, we're going to adjourn momentarily and we will return for photographs and some questions.
All right.
Okay, y'all, I'm back. I had to go get food, y'all. Y'all ready? So it's 600 of y'all in here. Listen, I got pasta salad. Look, doesn't that look good, y'all? Doesn't that look good? Let me stop. They said it's going to take 30 days for them to get a response. Within 30 days, they'll get a response to the appeal. Within 30 days. They have up to 30 days. All right. But I'm about to leave because I'm getting ready to eat. Because I want to eat in your face, and that's not nice. But if y'all want me to eat in your face, I can now. I wasn't going out for no food. I'll see you guys later. Let me put on my little music here. All right, my ending music. Later, guys.
She got the camera rolling tight, can you see it? Streaming the truth live from where they decree it. Sylvia speaks, no filter, no buffer. Courtroom drama couldn't get any tougher.
When the gavel's first bang, to the witness stands tears. Sylvia's lens captures all your hopes and fears. Uploading justice one trial at a time. Tune in every moment, edges sublime.
Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show. Faces tell stories the courtroom can't hide. Sylvia's insights cut through the divide. From jury talks to the lawyer's secret. In Sylvia's world, you know you'll need it. Behind the scenes where whispers are loud, her lens reveals the truth in the crowd. Courtroom secrets laid bare to see. Stay curious, make Sylvia spring. Every objection, every sharp retort, Sylvia's there to give you the report. Exclusive footage no one else can snag. From catchy headlines straight to the tag. Welcome to the Sylvia Show, oh yeah. She's got the inside scoop, don't you care? With every verdict, the suspense does grow. So hit subscribe, let's start the show.